Here's a game. Blitz. I think I've played him before. Okay, against e4. I played e5 and got a Rui Lopez. I played c5 and got a Sicilian. I played an Alechin's defense. How about a center counter? Okay. He plays the main move there, just bringing the pawn out, not trying to hold on to the extra pawn. Then bishop to c4. So the knight could come over here and gain a tempo on the bishop. I think that's actually a little more correct than the kind of more natural to me, more natural move, knight back to f6. Because it's a little out of play over here, but it does gain a tempo. It means I can keep on developing. I guess in this setup, let's get this bishop outside the pawn chain. I want to play e6 and knight to c6. And I want to get that e6 pawn before this deep, to stop the d pawn from coming forward. So, and he didn't play his bishop to his knight. He didn't play his knight to f3, so I couldn't come out and pin it. So now I can get developed. Let's see, the dark squared bishop. Could go to d6. Let's bring this knight out first. This bishop goes to d6. It could go to e7. I'm not sure. d6 is looking at the king side here, and maybe the queen can come out and harass his king. Let's see, this is defended, so I'm not really threatening it. Just wanted to get that knight out. The knight can maybe hop over to the king side via e7 if this bishop is on d6. Okay, kicks the bishop back, so let's drop back. Don't want to trade off that bishop. And he sets up a solid pawn chain here. So what now? Knight to d5 seems possible, or just developing the bishop and castling. He's not going to be able to bring his bishop to g4 because he doesn't have the knight on f3 or g5. So let's go for this bishop d6 idea. And yeah, so he had to develop his bishop to d3. Let's go ahead and castle. e3. Put his bishop on e3. And now he goes for f4. So that is okay, I think. I have this pawn on e3 or e6. When he pushes forward, I'll be able to take it. So I'm not. My bishop is not getting trapped here. And I can play this move knight to d5 with tempo, hitting the bishop. And he might be tempted to trade it off, which would, that's the problem. After he trades it off, then he actually would be threatening to play f5. Okay, so a couple ideas. I could take this knight on c6 and put him out to a5, kick this bishop back, and then I can bring the other knight to d5. One idea, and but this knight maybe would be left stranded here. The other idea is to play directly with knight to e7 and stop that pawn from coming forward using my pieces. And knight to e7, that also supports the idea of knight to d5, because if he takes, I can take back with the knight. So knight d5 now, bishop takes, knight takes, and I'm still threatening to take his bishop. And if he pushes the pawn forward, I can grab the bishop first and then take the pawn. So I think this should be okay for me. And looks like my pieces ended up on good squares. He can always relocate his bishop, but he first has to deal with the immediate threat to the bishop on e3. It's only got one square to go to if it wants to move. It could go to f2. That would protect e3, so I wouldn't have this fork. Knight e3 would be a fork of the rook and the queen. Or he could defend the bishop, and then I might trade it off and go after these weakened pawns here. So he decided to take the knight. Okay, so that gained me the bishop pair. And he still has to do something about his bishop. So he defends it. And now I could trade that bishop off, but I'm not gaining a pawn here. So yeah, his pawn is adequately defended. So trading off that bishop doesn't seem to weaken that pawn enough to allow me to get any real threats against it. But he does have a threat here, right? He's threatening to push the pawn forward. If I take with a pawn, then my knight is hanging. So I have to think about that. Let's see. Yeah, and I have two pieces attacking the pawn, and he's got three pieces defending it. So a way to remove one of the defenders. How about bishop to d3? He would play rook to f2, I guess. Maybe I'm just going to drop the knight back to f6. Now when he pushes the pawn forward, I can just take with the pawn. I'm also eyeing this square on, I just noticed he's got, I should notice these things in advance. He's got b7 here that he could take, and he didn't. He just dropped his bishop back. Anyway, yeah, his e4 square is covered by two knights as well as the queen, so he's got that adequately covered. If he pushes a pawn forward, I can just take it, so that's not a problem here. You know, queen b7, I could have met with rook b8, and I could grab the pawn here, but he could grab another pawn here. So let's go ahead and protect the b pawn. Maybe I can get some kind of battery here. Queen c2, bishop, queen c7, and bishop d6 lining up on f. Lining up on f4. So that might have been a better move than what I played. Okay, so he's going to bring his knight to that good square. I can't blame him for that. And let's keep my bishop on. So let's just drop it back here. So I have queen to d5, and I've got two pieces attacking his knight. I'd like to get my queen off the back rank anyway and get my rooks into the center. That's really what I need to complete my development here. Yeah, so he covers d5. That's good. Probably a good move. Let's see. His d pawn is adequately defended, I guess. He's got knight to c5 if I play queen d7. How about starting with b6? Then I have queen c7, and maybe also I could consider queen e7 and c5 as a way to play it. Maybe after taking the knight. I just didn't like the idea of the knight hopping into those squares. So he put his rook behind the c-pawn. So maybe thinking of pushing it forward. That would lead to kind of an interesting structure. Here, let's go with queen e7. I'm going to play the rook to d8. See if I can get some more pressure on the D pawn. Okay, and he's just pushing his queenside pawns. I think that's logical. Yeah, at some point I think I do want to just take that knight and play c5. It's giving up the bishop pair, but that's a strong knight. And it might be useful to get in the c5 move and with the knight out of the way. So if he takes, I can take back with the queen. Ah, actually, I'm not thinking about this correctly. He has the bishop behind that pawn, so actually I'll never be able to take back with the queen. Okay, so he's got the rook opposite my queen here, setting up for some tactics, probably involving these pawn pushes. So let's get the queen out of that. So maybe queen e7 just wasn't the right place to put the queen. But at least with b6, I have this square available. Let's see, he's got 4 minutes, I've got 3 minutes, so still doing okay on time. Is there a way to distract that bishop? Or to get this dark squared bishop into play here? Let's see, what about b5? If b5, he takes, and I take, and then I have this idea of bishop to b6, attacking the pawn. If I play b5 and he pushes forward, then, well, it takes that square away from the knight, and it leaves him with the backwards e-pawn. Maybe that's something. But I guess if I play b5, he'll probably play knight to c5, threatening my queen. b5, knight c5, then what? Okay, so he moved his bishop away from the d-pawn. Now he did it with the tempo, but I can take the d-pawn with check. So let's do that, and then save the rook. And let's see, is my queen getting trapped there? That's the problem. It has a few squares to go to, but not many, because of that awful knight. Let's take the knight next. But if I take the knight, he might take back with the rook. Okay, so let's get the rook out of the way. That's one way for my queen to escape, though. If he attacks my queen, I can take the knight. If he takes my queen, I take his queen. So that should be okay. And then with the knight gone, I have a couple squares to go to. I can go to c5. I still can't go to f6 because of the bishop. Okay, just drop back and harass my queen this way. So that's nice. Let's see, where do I want to go? Do I want to take the knight now? Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes knight, bishop takes queen, pawn takes bishop. I know it's kind of messed up his pawns. Bishop takes knight, rook takes, and then I can play queen to c5 or queen to f6, which is a good square hitting this pawn. I kind of like that, actually. And I can bring my other rook over to the d file here. Got a little bit of pressure on the f pawn. Let's see, but I do have to be careful once again. Let's see, if I go bishop to f4 or f5, he could play g4 and chase my queen around. That's a little bit annoying. If I go here, yeah, get the queen out of the way of things. Maybe that's the way to play it. I still want to be able to put my rook to d8 there. That's why I didn't want to put the queen there. Well, Thrasbulus is putting up a good fight. So now he's threatening to push the pawn and expose the rook here. So I guess I will go with the other rook to the d file. I need to be able to take when he pushes the f pawn forward. And maybe it'd be a good time now to give a little lift for the king so I don't get back rank mated. Play h6. See, 1.5 to 2 minutes. Okay, he went for it anyway, so let's grab. Yeah, I mean, it is a bank rank weakness, but it's not yet a mate threat. So I think that was probably a mistake. Although there is, yeah, there are weaknesses, like this pawn is weak. Okay, so let's go here, threatening that rook, so that his queen doesn't have time to grab on c6. I have a mate threat against h2 at the right moment, like queen to h6 would threaten that. He's got to move that rook, I think. I don't see anything else. Maybe he's looking for the best square to move it to. It's got to go back to one of these two squares. Everything else is under my control here. So rook e3 or rook e2 is what I'm expecting. And then what can I play? Queen h6 does threaten mate, but it's not much of a threat unless he doesn't notice it. You know, f6 is an idea. The idea of f6 is to open up this diagonal from the queen to the e8 square, so I can play rook e8. But after f6, he could bring his queen to somewhere and maybe triple on the e file. Unless he's going to let his clock run out. Well, okay, he's going that way. I did not think about that. Okay, first let's give my king some space. And then now I could go here. Maybe his being short of time will cause him to... the rook is defending the bishop. Okay, well, at least it causes... Well, that doesn't work at all. He can't take back because of the mate on the back rank. Yeah, that's what happens when you get into time trouble. But anyway, I'm glad I won the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you later. Bye.